This podcast is brought to you by Legend Comics and Coffee in Omaha, Nebraska, located in scenic downtown Benson. They got a new location. It's absolutely gorgeous. Check it out. And by listeners like you. Go to Patreon/Two-Headed Nerd. Become a patron. Support this show.
Once, they were two best friends managing a comic book store. But when an innocent blood oath went wrong, the two found themselves trapped in the same body, imprisoned in a strange pyramid made of long boxes, buried deep below their hometown, where they are doomed to discuss comic books until the end of time. They were once Joe and Matt. Now they are known as the Two-Headed Nerd. And this is their podcast.
Broadcasting from the ZIGGURAT at Omaha in caverns deep below the metro area jungle, where we keep in shape by fighting apes from our animal menagerie. It's our pleasure to welcome you to another Back Issue Show, episode 763 of the Two-Headed Nerd Comic Book Podcast. I'm your head number one, the internet's Joe Patrick. It's an urban jungle.
I'm your head number two. I did not approve of any of these animals, and my name is Matt Baum. This week, our Cosmic Long Box has me reading a classic Spider-Man tale I missed as a youngster, probably because I was reading stupid Micronauts comics or something. It's the Slack Issues edition of Kraven's Last Hunt, where we'll discuss the best Kraven story ever told that Sony chose not to adapt for the new Kraven movie hitting theaters this weekend.
I mean, it would be a bold choice to make Kraven's Last Hunt the story that introduces your new action hero.
Well, are you insinuating we're going to get another one of these Kraven movies?
I'm not insinuating that. I am stating outright for a fact that Sony hopes we will.
Hey, they killed the Joker in the first Batman movie. Come on.
Yeah, and Jack Nicholson never returned.
Yeah.
So what's your point?
Yeah.
They had to reboot the franchise to get the Joker back.
Sure.
After that, we'll set you up with our must-read picks for next week's new comics, but now it's time to strip off our clothes and get primal. Matt, hear those drums?
I can't hear anything. Are we doing it?
That's the sound of the jungle calling!
Oh, you are getting naked. Oh. Okay.
Down to your loincloth, baby! That's the sound of our prey running in fear! That is the sound of Back Issue Time in the ZIGGURAT!
I'm just not hearing it. I'm sorry. Kraven's Last Hunt was a story pitched by writer J.M. DeMatteis 3 times before it starred Kraven hunting Spidey. Joe Patrick, tell us about this little tidbit here.
I will. Here is some background for you. First, it was a Wonder Man story where we saw Wonder Man crawling out of his grave after being buried by his brother, the Grim Reaper.
Obviously, that's ridiculous. The Grim Reaper can't hold a shovel. He's got a big scythe.
I think maybe
hand.
he just unscrews the scythe and then screws
stuck a
in
shovel
the shovel
into it, and then he one-handed digs a 6-foot grave.
Well, no, he holds the other end with his good hand and then shovels. Then DeMatteis pitched it as a Batman story at DC where the Joker is driven sane after quote-unquote killing his reason for being. This was rejected for having too many overlaps with an upcoming story from a fresh-faced new writer named Alan Moore called The Killing Joke.
Oh, pshaw. Come on. You could have done both.
Fun fact about this, DeMatteis was able to retool that Batman pitch into I think it was a prestige format book in the late 90s, early 2000s called The Joker Going Sane. And it's out there.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can read it.
I remember that one. Okay.
Then there was another Batman attempt swapping the Joker for Hugo Strange, but it was rejected once again.
I can't see Hugo Strange doing that kind of work, right? He's not going to go out and dig a grave. It's Hugo Strange.
Hugo Strange will fight Batman, but he doesn't strike me as the type of guy that's like, I'm going to stalk the rooftops for my prey. Nah, not like that.
Well, I don't think it ever went to that point. I think Kraven is where that happened. I'm just talking about digging a grave and burying Batman.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's got people for that.
Yeah.
He would have to have people for that. Yeah. The story was finally realized as Kraven's Last Hunt, a 6-part crossover running through Web of Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, and Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. the 3 ongoing Spidey books of the era. Kraven's Last Hunt is widely considered not only the best Kraven story ever told, but one of the greatest Spider-Man stories of all time. Will Matt Baum agree?
Huh. Okay. Well, we'll wait to the end until I reveal. But, woo, let's get into it.
Well, boy, that makes me think that things are going to go a different way than I'm expecting.
No, but like the greatest Spider-Man story of all time. That's pretty. Woof. That's
One
awesome.
of.
Oh, the greatest. You said it.
I said one of.
Nah. Macho, please fetch our Kraven's Last Hunt comics and maybe some sawdust to pour over all this elephant urine. Good Lord.
Here you are, Sir Matt. Be warned there is a fair amount of male nudity. I know that can be triggering for your sense of humor.
Here's your creative roster for every part of the storyline, Kraven's Last Hunt. It's from Marvel Comics. It all came out in 1987. Written by J.M. DeMatteis with pencils by Mike Zeck. You might know him from a little bit called Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars from 1984. He also worked on Captain America.
He also is the artist of the single most expensive page of Spider-Man ever drawn out of Secret Wars. The first appearance of Venom that sold for more than $1 million. Insane.
First appearance of the black costume.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the auction build it.
Well, yeah, sure.
Venom.
Yeah. Also, like iconic Captain America cover is past his run on the book. Like some of the greatest, like that Wolverine slashing the shield thing. Cap with the Uzi. Like, come on, you've seen them. Inks are by Bob McLeod. Colors are by Janet Jackson.
Miss Jackson if you're nasty. Yeah.
Bob Sharon and Mike Zeck. Letters are by Rick Parker, no relation to Peter. And covers are by Zeck and McLeod.
Who's that doing those nasty covers? Nasty Zeck and McLeod.
That's right. Web of Spider-Man 31. Kraven's Last Hunt Part 1, the coffin. Here's a bit of setup. Frustrated with his repeated failed attempts at killing Spider-Man, Kraven the Hunter hatches a final plot to best his adversary, shooting and burying him. With his enemy out of the way, Kraven dons a Spider-Man costume and patrols the city, intent on proving himself a better hero. Is the real Spider-Man truly dead?
Okay, was something going on with Kraven before this? Because this opens with like nutball Kraven. He is whacked out of his gourd, butt naked, fighting animals in his like private menagerie gym, I guess. And also, answer that first.
Okay. The answer is I have no idea.
Because I looked at a few issues previous, and there was like I didn't see anything.
I honestly could not tell you. I honestly don't know how often Kraven was showing up back then.
Yeah, like I'm wondering if like Kraven was just kind of blank slate, so they could do this because
he was in the Sinister Six.
Well, sure, but like,
I mean, again, the Sinister Six wasn't around like all the time.
Yeah, and he was just like a guy that hunted animals and stuff like that at that point. He wasn't like big bad, Spidey big bad is what I'm saying. I think this is like them redefining him, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, certainly, I think I think your idea that Kraven was sort of a blank slate, will certainly open the door to DeMatteis. I think Marvel was like, "Oh yeah, you can do that to Kraven, no problem."
Sure. And like, so he's butt naked. He's fighting animals.
He's dick naked. He's fighting.
I love it, and he looks Zeck. Just goes insane with the colors here. It's super trippy, but he does punch an ape's head off. We both agree.
It's a stuffed. Right? It's a display. It's not a real ape. It's like a display. The ape's arms are frozen in midair. Like when it falls down, its arms are still in the same position. I did not
pick up on that. I honestly thought there were animals in the room because Kraven.
They're like taxidermied or something.
It's Kraven. Why not? You know. Yeah.
Now. I will concede that they may all be animals that he previously killed.
Oh, no, for sure. Of course. Yeah. I mean, like, I just thought like he actually had animals and he was fighting them and he punched an ape.
No.
And that ape did not bleed because comics code, whatever, you know, like
he was He punched he decapitated a live gorilla and there was no gore. No.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
it is some sort of taxidermy display.
So meanwhile, there's the theme of like one of his servants outside digging a grave. And this is going to carry through the whole issue. It's super effective. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's like at the bottom of the page when it occurs, just like the last panel that stretches across the entire page.
Yeah.
And he gets deeper and deeper as the book goes on.
And like Kraven, again, he's broken. He's reflecting on his life. He feels like a failure. He feels like his family got screwed in Russia and everything. And he's like looking for somebody to blame. And that's where Spider-Man's going to come in.
Yeah. And so the thing about Kraven is that he's much older than you would think.
Yeah, he's
due to
extended his
him
life.
imbibing, weird jungle potions and shit.
Heart-shaped herbs and shit, right? I mean,
right. Yes,
not
exactly right.
Not the heart-shaped herb, but a heart-shaped
If you were to
herb.
tell me, if somebody were to say at some point, young Kraven in the 50s or 60s stormed Wakanda and got himself on some heart-shaped herb or something.
I mean, wouldn't the Panther gods be like, get the fuck out of here, white guy? What are you doing?
Well, I mean, but maybe it wouldn't make him full Black Panther.
There's a
but
whole
maybe
thing
it
where
would do a little something.
the Beatles crawl over him and they'd be like, no way.
Give him a little juice,
This guy's white. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I'm sure that's their only requirement.
Back in New York, Joe Face is dead. And we are devastated. When I heard of Joe Face's death, I was like, not classic comic book character Joe Face. Is Joe Face
the iconic Joe Face?
Like Joe Face here, I guess he was a police informant. He's a bad guy. They're having a funeral for him in a bar. Spider-Man is upset though. He shows up and he's bummed. He's like, I feel bad. So bad that he lifts up his costume, takes money out of it and donates it to Joe Face's let's give this guy a proper burial fund. Right?
Yeah, right.
Who the hell is Joe Face?
He's nobody really.
Okay.
He was a recurring small time hood that Spidey used as a snitch.
Okay.
He's like Turk, but way less recognizable.
Gotcha. All right.
He's Spider-Man's Turk.
We should mention this
but not even really.
This is Black Spider-Man. This is Spider-Man in the black costume. Pardon.
He's in the black costume. Yeah.
But at this point,
he's very scary. Is the point? Like he's wearing the black costume.
So people feel differently when they see him. It's not like Red Spider-Man shows up and they're like, "Curses, Spider-Man!" They're like, "Oh crap!"
Well, yeah, because all you see
Creepy
are
Spider-Man.
eyes, in the dark, and it's just like, oh shit.
But he's also a little different at this point. He's upset because Ned Leeds is dead. Ned Leeds just died.
Ned Leeds, right.
Another
Ned
story
Leeds,
I've never read, and I honestly can't tell you who Ned Leeds is. I don't know. I know he's around. I know he's a guy.
You really don't know who Ned Leeds is?
I know that Ned Leeds is a character. That's all I really know, honestly.
Okay. So Ned Leeds was a staff member of the Daily Bugle.
Right. I knew that.
And he ended up marrying Betty Brant, which is why her name became Betty Leeds.
Later, he becomes a goblin, like a hobgoblin or something, right?
And it was revealed, allegedly, that Ned Leeds was secretly the hobgoblin.
Okay.
There was the big mystery, who was the hobgoblin, in the early 80s. And it was, in a shocking reveal, Ned Leeds is the guy, and he was murdered by a spy or some sort of international power broker guy called the Foreigner overseas.
That's quite the
in
name.
the very iconic Spider-Man versus Wolverine one shot. That's where
if the
Ned
Foreigner
Leeds,
says I have no home, then I'll buy it. But otherwise, that seems kind of.
I don't really know anything about the Foreigner.
It depends if he owns it.
So yeah, there's the iconic Spider-Man versus Wolverine one shot. That's where Spider-Man discovers Ned Leeds has been murdered, throat slit.
Okay, so this is right after that Spider-Man versus Wolverine.
Not long after. Okay. Yeah.
So Spider-Man
so Peter's all busted up about it.
To go back to what we're saying, he's wearing the black costume. We don't know that it is a symbiote or Venom or anything yet. It's just
yes, we do know that it's decidedly not Venom.
No. Okay. We don't know that it's an alien. Yet.
This is long after the alien costume.
Oh, so this is a second black costume that is not the symbiote costume.
The black costume saga started in Amazing Spider-Man 252.
Right.
And that was, at this point, 40 issues prior.
Okay, so he's still wearing a black costume.
The symbiote costume thing has long since been resolved.
Got it. He's just wearing a black costume because he's upset about Joe Face.
It's badass. He thinks it's badass, man. It's badass.
He's mourning Joe Face. He wants to, I get it.
Well, sure, you wear black to a funeral. What are you going to do?
He's mourning Ned and Joe. That's a lot.
Right, yeah. So I mean, he wore a normal cloth version of the black costume for quite some time,
Right.
And then later on at some point, I think Mary Jane talks him into going back to the red and blue,
Right.
And then of course Venom shows up as with the alien symbiote, and then the rest is
Venom
history.
is
this is not the alien.
symbiote,
This is
Joe.
just a regular costume.
Stop saying he shows up with it. He is it. He is Venom.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. We're going to confuse people. So Peter goes home, takes off all his clothes. There's going to be a lot of that going on in this book. So get ready.
Yeah, there's a lot of naked stuff
There's a
in here.
spider on the wall. Well, Peter's in his whitey tighties at this point, but there is a gratuitous leg spread shot, and I'm not sure why we need to do it, but there it is.
He's collapsed onto his bed.
There's a spider in the room.
In his BVDs.
He turns off the lights. We flash to Kraven, who is like literally in a spider aquarium, being covered by spiders, eating spiders, freaking out, going crazy, right? And
Yeah.
there's going to be a recurring theme here where, like, I'm not sure how this juju works that he's doing, but I think this is the beginning of how he gets to Peter, because he eats a spider, and then Peter wakes up and he's like, I dreamt spiders crawled all over me. And then Peter starts
the
to like
thing.
hear the drums and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay.
But Kraven
Here's the
doesn't have
thing.
any of this magic, right? Does he do like
No.
jungle magic?
No.
Okay.
I mean, no.
Is
No.
this ill-defined in this story, perhaps?
I think it's ambiguous. I don't know if ill-defined is a generous enough term. I think it's ambiguous
because Peter is definitely being affected by some kind of mental or magic whammy that
I don't
Kraven
think
is
that's
doing.
definite at all.
How's he hearing the drums? He says, I hear the
don't-
drums. Peter is saying
All right.
it. Not to mention, later, we'll get into it, a rat shows up, and that starts doing something to a different dude.
No. It's
Yes.
no.
Yes.
Not to a different dude.
To Vermin. Yes. The rat is
Well, but
fighting the spider
Vermin
on
is
the grave. and,
Vermin
like,
is a totally different matter, and we'll get into that.
I know, but like there's a lot of magic kind of we'll get into it as we go when we get to it, but let me
All
keep
right.
rolling here. So
Well, hold on. So Kraven is eating the spiders in the spider aquarium or
Right.
terrarium or whatever. Peter wakes up from a nightmare. Now, the way DeMatteis and Zek play it is these two things are happening at the same time.
yeah,
Peter is having a dream about things crawling all over him. It's true. Yes, that is true. And then he says his head is pounding
yeah.
like someone is playing jungle drums inside his brain.
Which sounds a
So-
little racist. to me,
So,
but, like,
I mean, would you not agree?
someone is playing world music in my brain.
Would you not agree that head throbbing like drums in my brain?
No, too much. It's too. The word
Uh,
jungle drums comes up.
Sure, Matt, but that's on purpose, right?
I get it, but Kraven is
I
talking
think
about.
there is an intentional ambiguity. Stay with me, my man.
All right.
Just follow with me. I think maybe you're conflating some things that aren't necessarily definitely connected.
Okay, well, as we go on, they will become that way.
No, not really.
You'll see.
Again,
I'll-
we'll get to it when we
I'll
get
show
to it.
you.
But I'm not like the theme is. It is intentionally ambiguous throughout the story whether or not some of the things are happening
I agree for
like,
the most part.
psychically or if they are literally happening or if it's just the drugs that Kraven is taking creating some sort of vibe, and that's done on purpose by the writer.
Sure. And I understand that, but there will be things later where that ambiguity really gets stretched. But we'll get there.
Yes, and we will. But like at this point, there would be no jungle drums playing because Kraven is still eating spiders in his nudity.
Sure. Peter, what, you telling me he doesn't have that soundtrack rolling at home? Give me a break, man. Come on.
Okay.
He's probably got manservants playing the congas, just like our moloids are playing them a minute ago for you.
Okay, sure, yeah.
So Spidey's like, oh, this sucks. I feel crazy. I'm going back out, man. That's because that's what I do. Run around in my Spider-Man costume. And Kraven's like, oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to start hunting Spider-Man because I have very suddenly realized that the spider is the symbol of all the problems in my life. So much so that he starts saying this, like, taking a William Blake poem tiger, tiger, but he replaces it with spider, spider, burning bright.
Yeah, I mean, that's at the end. Don't really.
And like, I get it. Like,
that's a good moment.
I don't think it's that far because he's been humiliated by Peter Parker and stuff like that plenty of times. So sure.
Kraven is an egomaniac.
Yeah.
Driven by the idea that he is the best there is at what he does.
Right.
And what he does is murder helpless animals in the jungle.
And it's not crazy to think that he would conflate the spiders that drove his family out of Russia, you know.
He thinks like to Spider-Man, he's like, I cannot rest. Like Kraven is certain that he's going to die soon.
Right.
And he says, I can't rest until I prove once and for all that I am his better.
Well, let's not spoil anything. I don't know if he's certain he's going to die soon because honestly, I did not.
No, he says it in the first issue within.
Oh yeah, he's like
moments.
before I die, I have to prove whatever. But that could be.
He says I'm going to die soon. My unnaturally long life, yada yada yada. I will die soon.
No, okay. Well, I guess that's in a minute here. That's just.
It's on like page 4.
I haven't gotten to that part yet. I guess.
It's on like page 4. We're way past it.
I found morality. Okay, yeah. Sorry, that was there. So he shows up. Kraven is hunting Spidey in the rain, of course, and he hits him with a poison dart that makes Spidey hallucinate. And he sees Joe Face's face. Oh, man. And he feels really bad because, Joe Face and him were a whole thing. I don't know, I guess. Peter thinks that, like, whatever. I'm going to get better. I got superpowers. I'll get over this. Kraven shoots him with a net, and he's like, big deal. Same old Kraven bullshit, right? Now he's going to stand over him and narrate his plan and tell me everything's going wrong. And Kraven takes out a rifle and shoots Peter at point blank range.
Yeah.
Whoa. Which also leads me, like, just Peter thinking, oh, give me a break. It's just Kraven. Like, at this point, Kraven was pretty blank slate, ridiculous Sinister Six member that wore a tiger vest and was the
And now
world's greatest
Kraven
hunter.
has lost it.
He's going nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kraven shoots him. We see that the servant has dug so deep that you can't see him anymore. You just see the tip of the shovel. Kraven comes home with Spider-Man's body. They put him in a casket. Last page, they are burying Spider-Man. Holy crap.
Yeah.
So fans must have, like, when this first came out, I would think they freaked out.
Well, I don't know, Matt, because it says part 1 of 6 on the cover.
Sure.
And they still got 2 other Spider-Man titles going.
I mean, I guess, but you killed Spider-Man in the first story. In the very first
Sure.
story.
I think I'm pretty sure nobody thought that, like, oh man, this is it for our boy.
No, I'm not saying that, but this definitely sends a message.
It's a very shocking. I mean, and this is chapter 1.
Yeah, all bets off.
So this is a very shocking moment.
I'm just saying we have not seen anything like this in a Spider-Man comic up to this point in the 80s, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's certainly fair. I really do love, though, the way this lettering is done, this inner dialogue, no word balloons.
No, it's great.
Pardon me, no thought bubbles. This is 1987. And so thought bubbles, still a thing. But these are all captions, caption boxes, what became in vogue in the 90s.
Well, but also
And
it's like it's not just a thought bubble.
So
it's
Kraven. It's his inner monologue. We know
Right.
that it would be a thought bubble if this were a different kind of story.
Like maybe Kraven is writing this down as his last will and
No.
testament.
This is
I don't know.
Spider-Man's inner monologue for sure, because he's thinking he's gonna pack me off to some secret hideout.
Oh, no, that.
He's
sorry.
gonna rant for a couple of hours. Yada yada.
I was talking about the orange
But in
boxes.
the middle of these thoughts, in the middle of his thoughts, like, all right, let's just see what he does, and then I'll find a way to beat him. Like in mid thought, that caption box breaks with a different caption box in a different shape and a different color, and he goes, "A rifle."
Yeah.
A rifle. like he's freaking out. And it's so well done. But there's also a combination of the script and the lettering.
They're setting up 2 voices in his head, which is going to be a thing that's going on for a while here, like later when he's freaking out. And Kraven is also doing this, like the spider and the man. There's like this duality thing going on.
Sure. I mean, not literally 2 voices in this case, but yes, like he's having.
Well, there will be later when he's like, I'm a man, I'm a spider.
Oh, well, Kraven, that's different. But like Peter is, he's trying to be confident and then suddenly he's starkly afraid.
Right. No, for sure.
And yeah, it's very effective.
Okay, part 2. Amazing Spider-Man 293, crawling.
Yeah.
This is
Here's
where the rat shows up.
What?
The rat shows up now.
The rat. Yeah, the rat. There's a rat. The deranged hunter is wearing his own spider costume and fighting crime on the streets of New York City. What in the world is going on? That's what Mary Jane would like to know as she desperately searches for her newlywed husband. And to make matters worse, there's something horrific coming up from the sewers. Vermin! Capital V, Vermin.
Yeah, Vermin, yes. This is where the rat shows up on the grave.
He's the Rat Man.
This cover, so good. Kraven dancing on Spider-Man's grave in the rain. Oh, it's so iconic.
Yeah.
This is one of those covers that I just burned into my brain. All these covers, for the most part, but this is the first one. This is probably the second best, in my opinion. We'll get to the best cover in a minute. But
yeah. No, I agree. So when I say newlywed husband, Mary Jane accepted Peter's proposal, and Amazing Spider-Man Annual came out within weeks of this issue.
Yeah.
She accepted his proposal in the previous issue of Amazing Spider-Man 292.
Yeah, they're literally just married.
Like for 5 minutes, they've been married.
Yeah. I will say this is one of those, as I like to call, fucking Mary Jane stories where it's just like, why are you doing this? You're going to go out in New York in the rain at night by yourself. Spider-Man can take care of himself. And if there is an issue that Spider-Man cannot deal with, what are you going to do, MJ? What are you going to do? You going to fight the rhino? Like what?
Look, man, she feels powerless.
Yeah, I get it.
What do you want?
I get it. Call the cops. All right. Anyway, Kraven standing over the grave, and he's actually first, there's this black suit Spider-Man standing over Spider-Man's grave, takes the mask off. It's Kraven! And he looks really upset. And then he bursts into laughter because he is whacked. He's nuts at this point.
Oh, yeah. He whacked.
I love it. Rats are running around. This is where we introduce. I didn't feel like we really needed this Vermin part of the story. I felt like it was a little tacked on as a third thing, and I just didn't really need it. And also, I get Kraven, old school Spidey villain. We're reinventing him, whatever. Vermin's like a character that Cap and Spidey just had to team up to beat up, and he's basically a rat man that was created by Baron Zemo.
Yeah, so Vermin was a homeless man, a human man.
Right.
He was experimented on by Baron Zemo and Armin Zola. He's got mild superhuman strength, not nearly in Spider-Man's class. Very, very sharp teeth and claws, fast as hell. And he can command rats and other wild beasts, like stray dogs, for example, within his vicinity. He first appeared in Captain America 272. Much, much later, we will find out how damaged Vermin really was, even before the experiment. I will touch on that at the end of the show.
That'll come into play
when you
later.
ask me. When you ask me some questions, yeah.
He also eats people. I mean, he's a cannibal.
The reason he's here is that J.M. DeMatteis and Mike Zeck created Vermin.
Okay.
And Vermin is an animal man, and Kraven is a man that hunts animals. I mean, it all fits together.
I suppose. And Vermin is a cannibal. He's the New York cannibal killer that's pulling women and mammals and eating them.
Yeah.
Ooh, gnarly. MJ's laying around, not wearing pants like she always does.
I mean, she's wearing one of Peter's shirts as a night shirt.
Wearing a men's shirt, no pants.
It was the 80s. I've seen it.
Of course, there's a rat in the room because we got it. Vermin's here, so now there's rats all over the place. She freaks out, kills the rat with a boot, and then she's instantly like, oh, God, what have I done? Like, first of all, rat that big in your apartment, you got a problem. We go back to the grave. The rat is crawling on the grave. And this is like the new theme. Instead of the guy digging the grave, we're going to keep checking in on the grave. Things will be going on there that stretch the ambiguity of what's happening, including a rat fighting a spider in the rain. Whatever. We'll get there.
It's I would just please encourage you to open your mind to the power of the metaphor.
I understand it. I get it.
You're not supposed to take everything that you see literally.
No, I know
But,
that,
okay.
but at the same time, Peter's hearing drums and hallucinating. Kraven's going nuts and
He's not
hallucinating.
hearing drums. That's not what he said.
Freaking out.
He said, my head is pounding as if there were drums.
Okay. Anyway, Kraven's out.
That's another literary device called a simile.
Kraven is in New York, and he's out being Spider-Man. No webs. He doesn't have web shooters. So he's just
He's just crawling around.
hopping and crawling, kind of doing his thing. He's good. He's Kraven. He's in good shape. Sure, I'll buy it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's really he's way creepier and crawlier than Spider-Man for some reason. Like when
It's
Spidey
like he's
does it.
play acting, right?
Yeah. When Spidey does it, he's like, think Todd McFarlane, knees way up and whatever. Like Kraven's in good shape. He's not that flexible. So he's just kind of like a dude crawling around.
I mean, he's probably pretty flexible.
Kraven's taking more herbal potions, freaking out even more, like just getting higher and higher in his spider aquarium or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Vermin just got beat up by Cap and Spidey in the previous issue of Captain America.
Well, in whatever arc that was of Captain America. I don't know.
Not in Spider-Man.
I don't know how far before this it was, but it was in the pages of Captain America.
Okay. So he gets scared of a spider and he sees someone is like psychically talking to him.
Okay, so again, this is where I am not 100% sure if it's real or not. Both Kraven and Vermin hallucinate and or hear voices that aren't there. Like, that's a fact. That's what they do. Vermin is talking to himself the entire time, so he's hearing voices.
Right.
Kraven is also hearing voices.
Yes. Vermin is like, he's like, I'll go up there tomorrow. That's what I'll do. I'll go up there and what? I hear you, but I don't. Your voice, I don't like it. Leave me alone. Let me go away. Let me hide. Like, and Kraven,
but like
what's happening?
But we see that all this shit that's going on with Kraven is like happening in his own mind, like the spiders forming together into a giant spider. Like, and so whatever's going on with Kraven and whatever's going on with Vermin are not happening at this. Like the way they fall in the issue makes it seem like they're happening at the same time. So how is Kraven? Like Kraven's
Joe,
not talking to Vermin.
Let's say it's 4 hours apart. They're still hearing voices and being taunted by each other.
Not by each other, by the spider, respectively. Well, by the spider, because Vermin is also terrified of Spider-Man, because Spider-Man handed him a beating the last time they met.
Okay, so whatever. He's hearing voices as well. MJ.
Here's the bottom line about this. They hallucinate, they hear voices, and whether or not it's real or imagined is up to your own interpretation.
Got it. It's all happening.
But there is no overt, like, Kraven putting his fingers to his temple, butterfly energy coming from his head, like Psylocke.
I mean,
none of that's happening. Like, it's not happening.
MJ goes out in the rain to find Peter and two guys who just left the gym and are also just like straight up rapists decide they're going to check that out. New York in the 80s is a scary place. Meanwhile, we go back to Kraven, and I'll give you like this part. He's obviously fucked up and he's hallucinating. And like all the spiders form a giant spider. And he's like, I got to fight the giant spider in my spider aquarium. And he like summons the courage to face him. And it's like, okay, he's full on blaming the spider for everything at this part. He's definitely out of his mind. He's going nuts. But again, while this is happening, he's going crazy. He's afraid. It's cutting back and forth between him and Vermin, who's like, who's there? Who's calling? What do you want with me? Why are you calling me? I understand, I think. Like, I have to go up. So, sure, maybe it's happenstance, whatever. But they sure smash it together.
But, I mean, the panels are interspersed. Like, there is no other way to interpret this.
Right.
Other than Kraven's fighting an imaginary spider monster.
I know.
At the exact same time as Vermin is supposedly hearing voices in his head.
That's what I'm saying. They're telling me to go after Spider-Man.
It's not like Kraven is the one doing the talking.
Okay, fair enough. It just happens to be happening. So Kraven, MJ gets cornered by gym rapists, and just so happens Spider-Man shows up to save her. But she's like, whoa, you're not Spider-Man. You just beat the shit out of these rapists, which, by the way, they're rapists. So fine with it. Nice job, Kraven.
I mean, she's a little bit terrified, but he's very, very brutal.
She's not.
She stops him.
But she's like,
she stops him from killing them.
Yeah, that's how she knows it's not Peter, because he beats the shit out of him. And she's like, stop, don't do that. And she's like, that's not Peter. She's also in a weird spot where I get it. She can't go to the cops and be like, look, I'm married to Spider-Man. I'm worried about him. You know, like, but that's part of the deal, MJ. Part of the deal, baby. You knew what you're signing up for, okay?
Well, it's true, but also remember, they've only been married for like a day.
I suppose.
And so it's not like she's got Captain America's phone number.
She's known Spider-Man for way longer than this, though. It's not like they just got married.
I understand, but I'm saying her being an actual involved part of his day-to-day world is brand new, and it's not like he's had a chance to say,
fair,
in case of emergency,
fair,
here's my superhero speed dial.
Well, I mean, like, she's got to have Reed Richards' phone number. Peter Parker.
No, I doubt it. Well, like, why would she?
Because Peter Parker is constantly like, don't worry, I'm going to call Reed Richards and he's going to take care of this.
Yes,
all the
Peter
time.
is also woefully irresponsible.
That's why I think
overconfident.
That is why I think there is literally a magnet on the fridge with a note that says Reed Richards 555-1234.
and here is my no prize explanation for that, is that after this happened one time, Mary Jane was like, you are going to write some shit down for me.
Fair enough.
And we're going to put it in a place where I can access it in case you ever disappear again.
Yeah, you give me the cornucopia that calls Thor or whatever. And like,
right, exactly. The conch.
It.
Yeah, I want to blow the conch that calls the giant whale monster and Namor to come help me.
So Vermin comes out. It's raining. It's dark. He's pissed. He's hungry. He wants to find Spider-Man. Still wants to eat some bitches, though. That's his jam. I get it. You know, you're a hungry guy. We jump to Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, number 131, part 3, The Descent. Love these titles. God, these
titles are good. Here's your setup. Kraven is basking in the glow of his triumph over Spider-Man as he has successfully... Start over. Kraven is basking in the glow of his triumph over Spider-Man as he has successfully taken over the web-slinger's crime-fighting activities with a new, violent twist. However, there is another vicious villain terrorizing the city. Vermin, the human rat, is Kraven's next target. And a savage battle between the two killers erupts in the sewer system. Meanwhile, Mary Jane is frantically searching for Peter and visits Joe Robertson looking for help.
Not Robbie Robertson, which I had a little trouble with at first.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get there. I do love this one opens with a full-page spread of Kraven in the black Spidey suit, hanging upside down, like classic Spider-Man pose, but he's just holding onto a rope.
A rope,
He
yeah.
doesn't have any web
it's great.
shooters. Yeah, love it. So Kraven, he's like, all right, you know how I do this? You know how I beat Spider-Man? I show Spider-Man I am better by Spider-Man by becoming the superior Spider-Man. You fucking rip off Dan Slott. So he goes out to like be a better Spider-Man and beat up criminals with Uzis and shit because it was the 80s and every criminal had an Uzi because Hollywood loved that.
Or an AK-47, one or the two. There were two guns in the 80s.
If you had an AK-47, you were typically a Russian rebel or
a terrorist.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, these are just criminals. So they have Uzis and magnums, 357 magnums, basically. So he comes in, but he's not just like busting up criminals. He's straight up murdering criminals.
He kills one. He kills one of them.
Breaks the dude's neck. The cops show up. He beats feet out of there. And they're like, I don't know if this is Spider-Man because like this dude is dead. Spider-Man doesn't run around killing people. So everybody is kind of in on the, this guy running around right now is not Spider-Man.
They're kind of like, what's going on with this guy?
Yeah.
And is like, so it's a little bit like, what's going on with Spider-Man? He's like on a tear lately. And then all of a sudden they're like, there's a dead body right here.
Right.
And so like, okay, well, something is very
This
wrong.
ain't Spidey. Yeah. Spidey, this is not his MO. So Kraven is freaking out because he's better than Spider-Man. He just showed up. He killed those criminals, whatever. But he's like, nah, I'm not Spider-Man. I'm Kraven. It's like he can't tell anybody. And it's freaking him out or something, right?
Well, he doesn't want to get so subsumed in Spider-Man's identity that he forgets that the whole point was to show that I have bested him.
Right.
I, Kraven, have won.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, I'm not the Spider, I'm Kraven. I'm doing all this, not him.
Yeah, and I get it. Whatever. So Vermin is on the loose and attacking like hot bitches, and the cops show up and they're like, hold it right there, Vermin, after he ate one. And one of the cops is a black woman. And he's like, oh, man, you look just like my mom. So he does like what I do when I see my mom. He licks her face.
I should stress that he does not to say, oh, man, you look just like my mom. He does not say those words out loud.
Not quite like that, but he does like go to eat her. And he's like, mother, I love you.
He says, yeah, he's like, your skin is so soft, so dark, just like mother.
Yeah.
I love you. And then he says, I love you.
Is
and
Vermin a black
gives
dude?
her yeah.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. Vermin is a black
Vermin
dude.
is a black dude. I do really like the lettering when like he's running away from the female cop and she's like on the top of the car and she's like, oh God, 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 oh God. Like,
yeah. Oh, the lettering throughout is
it's
great.
So
like
good. It's so good.
It happened in the last issue or the issue before where Kraven was in the aquarium and all of the caption boxes were like jagged and running off the sides, like through the panels, you know. The Rick Parker crushes it.
Okay.
On this story.
It's great. It's great.
I love that Vermin's lettering is all in lowercase.
Yeah, because he's like kind of childlike and nuts and like there's just nothing he can do, like victimized basically. But he's also a cannibal. And later on, we're going to find out he's a really terrible person, you know, so whatever.
We're going to find out what?
So MJ, he's a terrible person from what you told me. You said later on we find out some terrible stuff about him.
No, I said that he was damaged.
Oh,
I didn't say
okay.
that he was a terrible person.
Well, regardless, he's a damaged cannibal, so maybe...
I mean, he has eaten several people.
Maybe we let Frank Castle kill this guy. That's all I'm saying. So MJ goes to Joe Robertson's house. Is Joe Robertson Robbie Robertson? Because this man's name is Joe, and he does not look black to me. He's coated very white here.
I will say that the coloring is...
it's weird.
It's not kind to Joe in this particular scene, but if you look at the one panel, there's one panel in particular that shows Mary Jane. There are a couple that show Mary Jane and Joe in the same panel side by side. It is definitely
clear. And I agree. And that's when my brain
got dark skin.
That's when my brain started going, whoa, wait a minute.
He's not very dark. And so it's an odd coloring affect. I don't know if it was just like the printing or what, but
is this Robbie Robertson?
Matt, I'm about to blow your mind. The only reason they call him Robbie is because his last name is Robertson.
Oh, good God. That is a dumb way to give someone. No,
it's not. His name is Joe Robertson.
But they say his whole name. It's like if someone called me calling him like Bomb Bomber. You know, like that doesn't make any sense. No one would do that. You would say Matt Bomber or what's up, Bomber?
If you had a cooler name, maybe they would.
No, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous way to give a nickname. And I've not once heard this character called Joe ever again in the entire time I've been reading Spider-Man, like modern Spider-Man. Nobody does that anymore, right?
It happens. Yes, it happens. You've just never noticed it.
Never heard it.
Yes, it happens. His name is Joseph Robertson, and everyone calls him Robbie because of his last name.
So she cannot tell. She's like, I'm worried about Spider-Man, but she can't tell Joe Robertson that she's married.
Just call him Robbie. Get over it.
Does Joseph know that Spider-Man is Peter Parker at this point?
No, I mean, we don't.
He doesn't.
Know.
Okay.
As far as we are ever told, the day Robbie finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man is the day that he reveals it to everybody in Civil War.
Joe Robbie Robertson.
Yeah.
It's the only way it was to refute.
Now, however, much like my theory about Perry White,
right?
Secretly knowing that Clark Kent is Superman, but not doing anything about it because of the like, why would you blow that up? Why would you ruin a man? Why would you jeopardize blah, 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 blah,
right.
blah. I have always held that Robbie knows that Peter is Spider-Man but has just never said anything
It's
out
like
of
when-
respect and
like
out of duty.
The Bendis Daredevil story where half of Hell's Kitchen knows the Daredevil. is
Yeah.
Matt, and they're like,
well,
"Just
you know
don't
what?
talk
There's
about
actually,
it."
there is a
He's a good guy. We leave him alone, you know.
years and years ago. This may have been before. I think it was before Civil War. There was when Bendis's Alias wrapped up. They launched. They brought Jessica Jones into the main Marvel universe from Max, and they launched a series called The Pulse, and it was about Jessica Jones working for the Daily Bugle, and in that comic, where Norman finally like snaps,
Right.
and reveals himself to be the Green Goblin to the world, even though the world has no like. The number of times the world has conveniently forgotten that Norman Osborn is a psychopath is insane.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
Norman finally like this is it. We've got all the evidence we need. We're gonna take down Norman Osborn, and we publish the story. And when they show up to arrest him and cart him away in cuffs, the door to his office explodes, and he flies out as the Green Goblin, finally free of the illusion of Norman Osborn.
This is exactly what's going to happen in the White House in like a month. So.
Yeah, right. But part of that story, Peter goes to Ben Urich because Ben is the one that wrote the article.
Right.
And he's like, look, man, he's like being real cagey about it, but he's like, I need you to know some stuff, but I don't know how much I can tell you, blah, blah, blah. And Ben Urich is like, Peter, take a deep breath. And Peter's like, what? And he's like, kid, I've known you were Spider-Man since like you were 12, since you were like 18 years old.
So if Ben knows,
don't worry about it.
Joe Robbie Robertson knows.
No, Ben Urich.
Yeah, I'm saying
Ben Urich comes out and tells him. So in my mind, in my head,
by extension,
yes, I think Robbie knows because he's a smart investigative journalist.
Gotcha.
But he knows better than to reveal it.
Gotcha. Okay.
But because Mary Jane doesn't know that he knows, or if he knows, she can't say.
Got it. So now we get to the part where Kraven is in a robe. I love it. He's at home in like a silk robe with a big knife.
Yeah, you know he's naked under
torturing
there.
a rat, directly transposed over Vermin, feeling them reaching out to touch him, and Destiny, and freaking out. This is the part where things get less ambiguous.
That's Kraven's internal monologue.
I understand that, but Vermin.
I feel the herbs,
fuck
the
out.
roots, the potions spreading wide into my mind.
Yes.
Feel them reaching out to touch Destiny.
Right. And as he's stabbing into the rat cage, Vermin is, what was that? Whoa, what's going on? I don't like this. Like, this is where things start to really, I have to wonder if there is some actual magic going on.
You know, Matt asked and answered. We already addressed this. It is.
I don't fully buy it. I don't fully buy it.
Intentionally not. It is not explicitly stated. You decide.
Right.
It doesn't really matter.
So Kraven gets dick naked again and goes after Vermin in the sewers. And let me tell you, if there's one place that I want to get naked and fight a guy, it is in all the human sewage I could possibly get in. And New York
City.
New York is probably close to the most collected human sewage in one sewer out there.
Maybe.
So he beats up Vermin. It looks like he kills him. He doesn't, because he's going to use him for something later. At this point, I thought, oh shit, he just killed Vermin. But
no,
he
did not.
We find out he does not. This fight scene is super brutal, though. It is great.
Yeah.
Like, Mike Zeck fight scenes are fantastic. And it's not, you can tell he went out of his way to, like, this is not a Spider-Man fight scene. This is Kraven as Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah, no, he's like fighting dirty.
Yeah,
right.
Beating the shit out of this Vermin.
Vermin's
dude.
drawing blood.
Yeah.
Like they're growling at each other because Kraven is little more than an animal.
Yeah, like, not only are you rolling around in the sewer, but a man named Vermin who lives in the sewer and literally drips with feces and urine just bit you.
Yeah, you should. I mean,
Ugh.
Kraven is so full of homeopathic remedies that he's probably immune to everything.
I still think you need a tetanus shot, bro. And homeopathy is not as magic as you think it is.
I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to be an issue much longer.
Yeah, well, sure. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Now, to be fair to your earlier statement, Venom, Kraven leaps out of the window of his mansion dick naked, but
Right, but
when
he
we see him come out into the
shows up
sewer,
in the-
he is wearing the costume. So he doesn't have, like, you know, His orifice is exposed.
He ran through the yard naked, putting on the costume. Yes.
Sure, right.
So he carries Vermin back home, and then we see a hand come out of the grave.
There's been one in every issue, that little that panel at the bottom of every page where here's what's going on at the grave.
Yeah.
There,
by the way,
the guy digging the grave. Chapter 2, there's spiders crawling on the grave.
Nothing ambiguous about what's going on here, Joe. There is a horde of spiders on the grave.
Sure.
Why? In the rain. Horde of spiders for no reason. As Spider-Man's coming back from the dead. Just, symbolism, metaphor. That's all we're doing.
Yes, Matt, because Spider-Man does not psychically control spiders.
I totally agree. That's why I have to wonder if something magic is going on, because there's spiders all over the grave for no reason other than magic.
There were spiders on his grave earlier.
Exactly. I agree. For no reason. That's what I'm saying.
Well, not like 1,000 spiders.
I think there's less ambiguity here than you think.
The dude punched a hole up in the ground. Maybe he disturbed a spider's nest and they all came swarming out.
No, give me a goddamn break.
You're overthinking it, man. No, there's no magic going on.
All right, we moved to Web of Spider-Man number 32. This is part 4, Resurrection. This is the coolest Spider-Man cover ever. End of line. Period. This is such a badass cover.
That is a bold statement, and I'm not gonna immediately.
Here lies Spider-Man
disagree with you.
On the grave, and the POV, and Spider-Man's crawling out of the. Oh my God, this is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool cover. I mean, most of the covers from this run are iconic.
They're outstanding.
Two or three of them are like on the short list of the most iconic Spider-Man covers.
Yeah.
The one where Kraven is dancing in the rain, like the first one, I think is a good one. The one where he's hovering over Spider-Man with the rifle is another. Like it's just banger after banger after banger. All these covers are brilliant.
Mike Zack. God, just killing it.
All right. Here is your setup. Spider-Man emerges from his grave and stumbles into Kraven's mansion. So, surprise. Spider-Man, he's alive. In Kraven's mansion, he learns that an impersonator has been terrorizing the city for 2 entire weeks. He does not know that it's Kraven. I think that he can connect the dots pretty easy.
Right.
But he doesn't really have... He has no reason to think that immediately. He reunites with his new wife, Mary Jane, while Kraven brutalizes criminals in New York City, still dressed as Spider-Man.
Right. So thanks to the Mary Marvelite YouTube channel, which is excellent. He does these histories of the Marvel Universe. I watched a breakdown on Kraven the Hunter and his entire story and past. And it's really cool because he takes new stories and old stories and superimposes them into a timeline, basically, which is
neat.
Awesome. And Kraven, I did not know, went through this same thing, was buried for 2 weeks as part of a magic thing, and came out Kraven the Hunter, ready to whip ass and stuff like that. And this, I think that story happened later.
When? Oh, that would probably have been when he was resurrected.
Well, no, this was something else that happened later on in a future story that fits into this timeline nicely as to why he did this to Peter, I guess. I can't tell you the exact storyline where it took place, but it did look like...
Find the Mighty Marvelite and
we'll figure it out
for yourself.
I'll post it in the Discord under our Back Issue Show channel. But he's great. The Mary Marvelite. Look him up. You'll love him. That is why he's doing this to Peter, because he's gone through something similar, and that's how he became who he is and all this stuff, right? And
I mean, but that's all retroactive. This is not stuff that
has happened at this point. No. Right. They added that to the story later. But it's fun.
Yeah, of course. Still valid. It's just that from the point of view of this story, we don't know any of that.
Right. So Peter goes on this whole trip. Peter's dick naked now. Just, okay.
He's hovering in a metaphorical void.
Yeah. He's picturing spiders. He's picturing Joe Face. Or pardon me, Ned Leeds is here.
Ned Leeds, yeah.
Is Ned a beefy dude? Because they draw him a pretty beefy guy here.
I don't know if he's this. Well, I mean, he was the Hobgoblin.
Oh,
so
well, yeah, but the Hobgoblin's kind of spindly. I don't think.
No, Green Goblin's kind of spindly. Hobgoblin's sort of a.
He's a bigger dude. I'm
not saying he's like a bodybuilder or anything, but he ain't he's no slouch.
This is a great.
He's no string bean.
It's a great issue.
Ned Leeds is a very handsome dude.
Okay. Peter, it like turns into a spider, is crawling through a metaphorical womb or something. I don't know, a tunnel with monsters in it.
Oh, you missed the part about Ned Leeds melting. That was pretty.
Oh yeah, that was cool. When he does see Ned melts into like a corpse.
He like does a Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade or Raiders of the Lost Ark
kind
of
here,
like,
you're dead. And he's like, oh yeah, that's right.
He's like, he does say, oh God, he's right.
Yeah.
And then he disintegrates.
And then Peter turns into a giant spider. He's having a really bad trip. Some weird shadow monsters fight him, and the spider busts open, and like Peter is reborn. A man covered in spider goo. It's super gross.
It's very gross. Like there's like, I don't know if spiders have intestines, but there's something that
They
looks
definitely don't. They definitely don't.
It looks like intestines, so maybe Mike Zeck did not run to it. It was 1987, so there was no Google. He probably didn't run to his library and look it up in the Encyclopedia Britannica.
No, but like he's fighting his way out of the grave and going through this thing metaphorically, and he's picturing Kraven shooting him and stuff. And it's like MJ, of course, brings him back because it's the love of his life, and he's got something to live for. Yada yada yada. It's totally awesome. We get the full page spread of Spidey flopping out of the grave, grabbing his own gravestone.
Him coming out of the grave is so amazing. This splash page.
This page should be worth so much more than that stupid page in Secret Wars. Come on.
Yeah, and you can see the grave. Here lies Spider-Man slain by the Hunter, which we've seen 1,000 times since the beginning of the storyline. But he's
totally
like
awesome.
Gripping it for leverage and pulling himself up out of the grave.
Right,
and there's only 3 words on the entire page, and it's just "I love you."
It's so
because
good.
He's thinking of Mary Jane.
So good. So
it's awesome.
Pete, like you mentioned, stumbles inside, finds paper. Oh man, I've been in there for 2 weeks. And of course, Kraven is here. Kraven wanted him to show up. Peter goes back in the room with all of Kraven's animals.
Kraven also fights the stuffed animals.
Now, at this point, I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, these are obviously taxidermy animals.
They're fake, yeah.
Yeah,
I think like he tears the head off of a leopard.
Right, and it's got stuffing in it. So I think it was just that first ape that threw me.
It's like stuffing and sand.
Yeah.
It's all fake.
And like, the henchmen are here and they're watching it and they're like, oh, that's Kraven, I guess, doing his thing again. And then they realize, nope, this is Peter Parker. Like, this is, they're
like, oh shit.
This is Spider-Man.
It's so great.
Right. It's really
good. Yeah.
We learned that Vermin is now downstairs in an electric cage, part of Kraven's plan. And like, it's starting to come together like, okay, I think I see where this is going. Peter heads back to his apartment. MJ is there wearing pants this time. Pete is super messed up. He's been buried for 2 weeks. And like, he comes in, they make up real quick. I'll say that. Like,
well, I mean, I think you can read into it, but I
yeah.
think maybe they're just, she's consoling him.
She's super upset. She could tell he's messed up. I get it.
They lower each other down onto the bed.
Yeah. He wakes up and he's like, I got to get back out there. And she's like, no way, you're still all messed up. And he's like, you don't get it. This is what I do literally all the time.
I love the touch that he can't talk.
Yeah. He's messed up.
Because he's been trapped underground. He's like, so he's got to whisper because he doesn't have his voice.
He's also like, he's not funny at all. He's not telling any jokes.
No, he's dead serious.
His spider sense is constantly going off and messing with him because he's so messed up. Like, he's barely functioning.
He's afraid of his own shadow. Dude was buried in the dark for 2 weeks.
Scared to death.
No food, no water. If he had been a normal man, he would be dead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can't live in a coffin underground for 2 weeks and not die.
Or unless you're heffed up on all kinds of magical.
Unless you're
too. Kraven or
radioactive.
Spidey. Yeah, I guess. So he's like, I got to go get Kraven. I like, that guy buried me. I want a shot at him. And this whole issue, Kraven's been like waiting, like he's coming.
Yeah, he's coming. He's coming.
He's coming. In the very last panel, he's here. And they're both wearing Spidey suits. Only Kraven doesn't have his mask on because in like true wrestling fashion, you can't have 2 masked guys wearing the same outfit. Everybody, like, no one's gonna know who's who.
Yeah. So now it's not really made explicitly clear unless I totally missed it. But it seems as though Kraven's estate, where Spider-Man was buried, is somewhere outside of the city. This is very much in the city. so maybe Kraven's got
he
like
definitely
like a secondary.
I don't know. He definitely swings there, but they're in Kraven's house because next issue, Amazing Spider-Man.
But you can see the skyscrapers and stuff right there.
I don't disagree. There's may be some problems with continuity of story here, but whatever. But the next issue, Amazing Spider-Man number 294, part 5, Thunder. They are, definitely in Kraven's house, and Kraven's house appears to be.
I don't think it's
city.
clear that they're in Kraven's house because you don't see the menagerie, you don't see anything. All you see is that they walk down some stairs and there's Vermin.
Well, then that implies that Peter knew Kraven had another apartment somewhere, and maybe Kraven was psychically calling him there, Joe.
No, you see, if you're looking closely at the art, you see that as he's swinging through the city looking for Kraven, his spider sense starts to increase and increase.
Yes, but he just happened upon that, Joe? He just happened upon
No. I think that it is an established fact that Peter is able to home in on things using his spider sense.
Fair.
I think he swung around until his spider sense pointed him in a direction, and that's where he went.
And it's a sexy in the city apartment where Kraven's also got a bunch of stuffed animals.
It's also not like,
and Vermin's in the basement.
Don't get caught up about in the semantics of it. It's not really important.
He's a wealthy guy.
It just seemed to me that the grave was in the middle of nowhere.
No, definitely. They didn't bury him in New York.
Right. I mean, even if the sexy apartment's got like a courtyard or something in the back,
oh, there's a little green space.
He was in the middle
in
of
the East Village, and nobody noticed the servant.
Because like Kraven had to come and go with a helicopter. Like they show him.
Yeah.
The estate is elsewhere. So here's the setup for Amazing Spider-Man 294 Part 5. A furious web slinger confronts Kraven inside his lair. However, the depraved hunter doesn't want to fight.
You even said right there, his lair.
Well, dude can have more than one lair.
I guess.
There's his house, there's his lair. I don't know. Again, it's not important. But Kraven doesn't want to fight. He only wants to talk and show the wall crawler his prized possession downstairs, Vermin. Spider-Man is confused, the man-rat is scared, and Kraven has gone off the deep end. Again, or is already off the deep end.
Is still
when Kraven
off the deep end.
is still firmly nowhere near the deep end. Nope, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Because he's definitely in the deep end.
Just.
I lost track of the analogy. Yeah. When Kraven lets Vermin go, Spidey has no choice but to battle the tormented creature and pursue him into the streets. Once Kraven is alone, he completes his last hunt in horrendous fashion. ...
This cover, I bought this comic like in one of those packs of 3, like a Kate.
Yeah,
toy
this
store,
is probably, I agree.
something.
Other than the coffin one, this is probably the most famous.
Super famous. And it's like, man, Kraven looks so rad here. Like Spidey's up on the wall behind him, and Kraven's obviously hunting him with 2 guns. And like the stuffed
awesome.
Woolly
or a
mammoth.
gun and a spear, something. I think that's a spear in the other hand.
There's like a stuffed woolly mammoth head or something.
There's a stuffed elephant and a stuffed rhino.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's bad.
So Vermin's in the cage, he's freaking out, and like they've spent a lot of time really victimizing Vermin here. But I don't feel bad for Vermin. I just don't.
I mean,
he's a cannibal.
Okay. He's damaged. He is not only is he physically mutilated, he is mentally unhinged.
Right.
And so Vermin, for all of his crimes, is a victim.
Sure.
I'm not saying that like, oh God, like let's just say all is forgiven Vermin. But I'm saying that Vermin is a tragic figure. It's not as simple as Vermin equals villain.
I mean, I guess he's still whatever. Not important. I think the whole theme of the storyline is one person is victimizing 2 people who are also have their own set of issues and taking advantage of them because he does not want to deal with his own issues. That being Kraven, who is such an egotist that he can't just be a messed up guy that's upset about how shit went down in his family. There has to be a monster behind it. I'm deciding that monster is Spider-Man, but I'm going to do so while I'm super fucking high.
And occasionally dick naked.
Yeah. Well, which happens when you get super fucking high. I get it.
Right. Yeah. I'm
Like,
sure that you can attest to that.
He's on a very bad trip.
Vermin is little more than a wild animal for the purposes of this story.
Right. And like, I really like this because not only is Kraven messed up, we get to see like how messed up Peter is. And when he shows up, he just like grabs Kraven, and Kraven is not fighting back whatsoever.
Nope.
He like lets Pete just drop one directly in his face, just decks Kraven, smacks him, and he like looks sad for a second and he spits blood out. And then he's like, I got you right where I want you.
Yeah, the demon I have at long
You are
last.
so messed up.
Blood spit.
Because I think at some point he knows, like Peter knows, like I'm a dude. I'm not a super guy. Like I'm stronger than most people and whatnot. But Peter Parker can lift a car over his head and stuff. And he just showed up and punched me square in the mouth, you know?
Yeah, which is weird. Like you can spend a lot of time analyzing that moment as well, because Peter even hopped up on goofballs as Kraven is. Peter could have easily dropped him with one punch if Kraven was not fighting back.
And if Peter went straight up, like dropped his shoulder and full punch Kraven, he knocks his head off like that stuffed ape in the first issue.
Yeah. So either Peter pulled his punch or Peter is, weak or what have you. Like you can read into it however you choose. But Kraven is also, while he might not necessarily fit the terms of the word superhuman, he's about as close as you can come.
Well, look, I'll buy the, like we said, heart-shaped herb bullshit. He's drinking jungle juice. That is
like if Peter punched Captain America square in the face like that, I think the result would be similar. Minus the
Cap would be okay. Well, super serum and whatnot. Like Cap's pretty super, right?
But Cap is not superhuman. He is peak human.
I mean, sure, but the super soldier serum definitely made him like.
Okay, you're getting caught up on the word super in that. All the super soldier serum did was elevate 98-pound weakling Steve Rogers to the peak of human potential.
I don't buy it. I think he's stronger than that. But anyway.
He's not.
Regardless, this Kraven is wonderful. He's out of his mind. He's smiling. He's bleeding. And like, he's like, you're the crazy one, Spider-Man. Not me.
He's like, hit me one. Go ahead, hit me again if you like. Hit me 100 times. I'm not going to resist. Don't you see? I won.
He gets dick naked in front of Spider-Man. Things start to get
once again
homoerotic as hell.
Dicks out.
And look, I said it on our Discord, if they had any balls whatsoever, this Kraven kisses Peter on the mouth.
You know what? If this story were told today, I think you could easily attach an angle where Kraven is infatuated with Spider-Man.
Straight up in love. Yeah. In love.
I mean, not love, because that implies.
I mean, in his crazy way,
in a like infatuated in an unhealthy way. I think like yes, something that expresses itself as romantic.
Totally.
Affection.
It would also explain all the nudity.
Peter would just be horrified by it.
It would explain all the nudity.
But I mean, also Kraven is a jungle man. He's a Tarzan.
I mean,
I
don't care.
I
suppose, but I do feel
Hold on, let me slip into something more comfortable and take you down to my moldy basement.
Like maybe there's some ambiguous things going on, and maybe I'm reading in some stuff, but I feel like he was rock hard when he got naked this time.
Disgusting. You disgust me.
Come on, man. He's smiling. He's having a good time. Peter's firmly under his spell. He's like, hey, let's go down to the basement where I got a sexy cage.
Peter's not talking at this point.
Yeah. He's just following him.
Following because what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah. Kraven's got a weird sex dungeon. Vermin's down there. There's a big stuffed elephant.
Kraven is like, I kind of feel bad for him. He's like pitying Spider-Man for his like.
Well, he can't do
like for your brokenness, for your humanity, for your weakness.
He can't do the thing that Kraven does. He can't kill
and then
beasts.
He climbs up on the stuffed elephant, roars like a lion, and Peter freaks out.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's part of the sex dungeon thing. And I think what he thought was going to happen next was way sexier than what does happen, because Peter's kind of dumps him off the sex elephant.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because Kraven gets up there and has sex with.
Oh, I bet you he's had sex on that thing a bunch.
And I'm going to say people. I think Kraven goes both ways, baby.
You know what?
Which, whatever.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
No judgment. Good for you, man. So Peter and Vermin fight is great. Again, it's super brutal, and I think it's Zek showing us that Pete is out of his mind. Like, he's doing Spidey stuff. Kraven wants him to kill him, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And that's when Kraven's like, all right, you fucked up.
Whatever, dude.
He's free. There he goes. You know, like, you can't be the hunter. I'm the hunter. That's why I'm better, because I understand the law of the jungle. I understand, like, kill or be killed, and you're this silly, stupid hero, right? And he even like stabs Vermin, and he's like, I can kill him right now if I want to. I'm not going to. You know why? Your problem.
Right. Well, he
have to deal with it.
So he says, you know, I've made my point. Go, you're done. I'm done with you. And then he literally picks Spider-Man up off the ground and helps him back up to the surface.
And he's super gentle about it. He's like, hey, it's all right, man. You failed.
I gotcha. Yeah.
You
Hey.
failed.
And then he's like,
hey,
you have my word. You're free to go.
Yeah.
Go find. You won't let Vermin run loose. You're not that kind of man. Go follow your conscience.
And he's like,
you have my word.
And he's like,
I will never hunt again.
I get it. You're a good guy. You're not the demon. You're not even the monster that I thought you were. You're just a man. You are just a man.
Yeah.
You're not the spider.
So,
and he's so free in this moment.
Yeah. He's like, I've accomplished what I've set out to do. I promise you, you will never hear from me again. But it's over.
I also think there's this like thing going on where he's like, all that shit that I was worried about, my family, running, my failures, fighting these demons, shit, none of it matters anymore. It's all gone. I just think there was something so effective about this moment. We even just like the way they're drawing Kraven's face. This whole time he's been cackling, crying, growling, and in this he just looks relaxed. He looks
at first
happy,
and then he looks sad,
satisfied, but like in the sweetest way. In this like not
like
terrified,
like a
or
melancholy.
Upset. Yeah, but just like, I'm done. Now I can go. Picks up a rifle, shoots himself in the face, and falls.
Puts a gun in his mouth and blows his own head.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, what a great ending. And like, part of me almost wishes that was the end of the story. And
I know, right?
And off panel, there was like, yep, and Spidey went and got Vermin the end. Don't worry about it.
Sure.
You know, like, whoa.
But yeah, this is a great page where there's a callback to something Kraven has said multiple times over the course of the storyline, telling stories about his family. He says, they said my mother was insane. And in that panel, all you see is a shadowed reflection of the gun in his mouth.
Yeah.
Which in 1987, let me tell you, is not something I think I ever would have expected.
No, a dude shooting himself on panel in a regular Marvel comic
Well,
book?
it's off panel, but the gun is in his mouth for sure.
It's still, the gun is in his mouth in shadow, coom, and then there's blood all over, and he's falling into the casket.
And then his body slumps into the casket, and the blood rains down his family portrait over the image of young Sergei.
And this was the perfect ending.
Intense.
They should have stopped right here. I'm not saying the next issue is bad. I'm not saying that at all, but they should have stopped. The end. Full stop. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that would have been great. But we've got one chapter to go. Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man 132, Part 6, Ascending. Here's your setup. The hunt is almost over. Kraven is dead, but Vermin is still on the loose. Spider-Man must suppress his fears and enter the sewer to find Vermin. Can the web slinger match Vermin's savagery and bring the rat-like killer to justice?
And
I mean, yeah.
And this is good. This is really good. I'm not saying this is a bad comic. The art is still amazing. It's still Mike Zeck. Spider-Man has gotta obviously go get Vermin and crawl through a lot of what appears to be poop in the sewers.
Yeah, it's probably poop, man. He's Shawshanking it. He's straight up Shawshanking it.
Gross.
Yeah, through 5 miles of shit.
And we really get like we get the full sort of conclusion to, you can't kill this guy because you're a hero, and that is fundamentally your problem, and that's why I'm better than you, and I can check out Kraven because I know I've already beat you. Because like Peter is definitely fighting Vermin, is trying to stop Vermin, but he's still all messed up from being in the grave. He thinks like part of him still thinks he's underground. Part of him is like, is any of this happening? Is all of this a fever dream? I don't totally know. And I can see why, if you're crawling through poop and fighting rats that are controlled by a guy. Yeah.
We also get a full circle kind of callback to one of Kraven's servants digging another grave.
Yeah.
In the bottom panels of multiple issues.
Now, and like the cops are like, they have a full signed confession from Kraven. He wrote everything down. Said like, yep, it was all me.
I did it.
Wasn't Peter Parker in that suit. It was me breaking necks, doing whatever, causing problems. And the cops are like in his house. But I do think, like you said, this graveyard, this is somewhere else. Like the cops are in this apartment or whatever.
I think there's the Kravenoff family estate.
Yes.
Which is clearly not around any city buildings.
No.
Every time they show the exterior.
Kraven's
and then there is the Kraven sex lair.
Yeah, in Chelsea or whatever.
In, Brooklyn, wherever. Yeah.
Okay. So the servant is digging the grave. The cops are in the apartment. They're all like, yeah, there it is. Signed by him and everything. Yeah. And they're all kind of like, yeah, well, we knew it wasn't Spider-Man. That's not what he does. The cops know.
Yeah.
So Spidey fighting Vermin again. Mike Zeck fight scene in the sewer. It's so violent and good and gross because the water's like green and yellow. It's got to be pee. And it's just,
it's pee and poop.
They're fighting in the pee and the poop. And
it's bad. It's the sewer, man. Like, we don't need to really go into it that much. What's in the sewer? Poop.
Yeah. It's a long fight scene. And then like finally you see Peter like doing the thing. He stops Vermin and he's like, you just got to chill. We're both been taken advantage of. And he's trying to be a hero, but Vermin is so fucked up. He's a fucked up rat
and
man.
So like he ultimately chases Vermin to the surface where Vermin is like out in the open, surrounded by cars.
Yeah.
He freaks out for a minute, and that's where Spidey is able to catch him without further violence.
Well, because it's daylight, and that's the thing. Vermin wants to hide in the dark. He's got big red eyes.
Yep.
I assume he sees like he's a rat. They're So when he comes out and there's traffic everywhere, he's confused. Spidey easily grabs him. Takes
it's
him
sunrise. I think the implication is that it is sunrise.
Right.
And so it's
and we get this whole nice back in the light of day. Spider-Man's back. He's all right. He's gonna be okay, and he's gonna call Reed Richards, and Reed's gonna make Vermin not a rat guy or something. I don't know. But it's like
there's a last bit of internal monologue from Spider-Man where he says,
it's great.
I get the feeling that when Kraven told me he was giving up the hunt for good, that he meant it.
Yeah.
I guess I'll find out soon enough.
He knows.
He does not know that Kraven offed himself.
I think part of him is like,
because he says, I guess I'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, but it's gonna be in the paper that Kraven shot himself.
Is Kraven gonna be true to his word? I'll find out soon enough.
Or I'm gonna read in the paper that Kraven shot himself.
Well, he might read it in the paper, but he hasn't seen the paper at this point.
No, but I think he definitely knows that dude was not all right when I left. No.
Sure. Well, he says, I'll find out. He says, after all Kraven's done. A cop says something about what Kraven has done to him. And Spider-Man's like, how would he know what Kraven has done? I guess I'll find out once I get back to the townhouse.
Yeah.
But I don't think Kraven will be there.
Yeah. I think Pete.
Well, that's technically accurate.
Yeah. Part of Pete knows that something really bad happened. I love he comes home and Mary Jane not wearing any pants. And she's like, you're home. And he's like, yeah, I love it when you don't wear pants. And they hug. And then,
dude, sometimes women wear nightshirts. I don't know why I have to explain this to you.
We cut to the. So you know what? While I was reading this, I asked Casey. He was like, "Was there ever a time in your life when you just like walked around in a shirt and pants?"
This is 1987,
and she was like, "No." It's like never. Not when I live by myself. Not when I live with you. Like no.
I've seen this in the movies. Move on.
I'm not saying men who make movies don't do this to women.
Well, these are men that make comic books. So.
Yes, I agree. Men like women in panties, Joe. The final scene though of like Kraven's henchmen. And they come out and they bury Kraven. And it's the same gravestone. Here lies Kraven the Hunter. And oh, man. And you get the the poem in the end. This storyline is so goddamn good. It's so good.
It's next to Spider-Man's gravestone, which is still there.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like Kraven and Spider-Man are buried side by side.
Yeah, because he was in love with Spider-Man.
Yeah, it says, here lies Sergei Kravenov, Kraven the Hunter. He died with honor.
Kraven wanted his butt to touch Spider-Man's butt. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. So,
yes. Last line, spider, burning bright in the force of the night. What immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? Fearful Symmetry was the original name of the storyline.
Oh, really? It is a William Blake poem.
Some of the original trades, I believe, actually do have it labeled Fearful Symmetry: Kraven's Last Hunt.
Oh, really? Huh.
But the editor at the time was like, we got to call it something a little bit more zazzy.
Sure.
If we want people to buy.
Are you telling me that like 1980s young men weren't big William Blake fans?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying.
I just thought everybody was smarter back then. This is a massive buy it. This is easily the best Kraven story ever told. I don't know. Like, I would really have to think about it before I say this is like the best Spider-Man story I've ever read.
And nobody says it's the best.
It's way up there. It's definitely.
They say it's one of the best Spider-Man stories.
I'm going to say this is a top 5 easily.
Yeah. I mean,
easily.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that Kraven's Last Hunt is a seminal piece of work.
Yeah.
I think it's a career-defining piece of work.
This is no Assassination
both
Nation.
Of these guys had existing careers.
This is way up there, but it's no Assassination Nation, you know?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's funny to consider that, like, this is 1987. J.M. DeMatteis, like, the Justice League relaunch with Keith Giffen had already happened.
Yeah.
He may have still been writing it.
Probably.
In 1987.
Yeah, I'll bet.
And so, yeah, like, this is the guy who's writing Booster Gold and Blue Beetle saying "blah ha ha" and Batman punching Guy Gardner out in one punch.
Sure.
But J.M. DeMatteis was a writer with a pretty well-established career on his own even before that. His run on Captain America is very highly regarded.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's hardly any of it is collected.
Yeah, and I don't get here. Another thing that I really like is this exercise of a singular creative team telling the story through several different monthly comics. That's not something we see anymore.
I mean, that's I think the ideal of a crossover, right? You kind of want it to be that, but it never really can be that because of the way comics are made and marketed nowadays.
And I also feel like things like this could not only do people get like pissed off about events interrupting their stories and shit, but if you tried to like do this through several Batman books or even several X-Men books that people were reading, it's like, well, I'm not reading that. I'm reading this other thing, you know, like you have to like buy these interrupted breaks. Now,
I mean, you would think like I haven't, it's been a while since I've checked in on those particular issues, but you would think, I know for sure that Amazing Spider-Man 292 is the end of that storyline.
Sure.
Because MJ accepts Peter's proposal in the annual, they get married. Next issue, Kraven's Last Hunt.
But like, look at the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man right now. This is all happening in the pages of Amazing
one
Spider-Man. Right. That's what I'm saying. It's not moving from there to another Spider-Man book to another Spider-Man book to tell the story. And if they were doing that, it would be all different creative teams. And you and I would say, you don't need to read 3 of these issues.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I mean, the way this storyline is crafted, they could have done this anytime.
Sure.
And then Marvel's just put it on the schedule and then put it out.
Or they could have just said, this is a prestige, whatever, you know.
It could have been, they could have had it done a year before.
Yeah.
And then Marvel just was like, okay, we're going to pencil it in for these issues.
Joey, put your damn clothes back on. Tell the Moloids to lay off the congas, and let's head up to the THN Sanctum Sanctorum to discuss our must-read picks for the new comics hitting shops next Wednesday, December 18th.
Look, man, I do all my best comic book predicting with no pants.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware. It's gross.
Right. My pick for next week is The New Gods #1 from DC Comics. It's written by Ram V with art by Evan Cagle. It's 32 pages for $3.99. Here's your solicit. Ram V and Evan Cagle reshaped the mythology of the DCU. An old god has died, and the reverberations of his passing are felt across the universe, setting forth the soldiers of an intergalactic army and awakening the latent powers of a mysterious child on Earth. But this has all been foreseen, prophesized by the source, and fed as enigmatic images to its agent, Metron. Now, as Metron brings word of this cosmos-shattering prediction to the residents of New Genesis and Apocalypse, both worlds are thrown into chaos and conflict. On Earth, Scott-Free and Barda find themselves unaware of this incoming chaos while consumed with their most daunting task yet, parenthood. Ram V and Evan Cagle bring the fourth world to a whole new generation in this epic of cosmic proportions. An old god has died. The new gods are born.
Yeah, are the new gods not around right now in DC?
I mean, I think they're vaguely around.
So this is like telling a story.
I don't think there's been anything major done with them in a while.
Just maybe reestablishing like a story that's out of time and could take place whenever and past.
No, I mean, I don't know if that's
future.
necessarily even true. I think it's just that it's been a while since the new gods had any sort of spotlight thrown on them.
Okay.
The reason I picked this was, I have to admit, the first attraction for me was purely visual. Evan Cagle.
Oh yeah, it looks amazing.
He is such a phenomenal new talent on the comic scene. He did the covers for Ram V's run on Detective Comics.
Yeah, they're just
and they are brilliant and haunting.
Yeah.
He also did the art for that Dark Horse miniseries Dawn Runner. And it's incredible.
Yeah, we freaked out about that issue we read too. Man, this dude is amazing.
And I've always had a soft spot for the new gods. I want there to be great new gods stories in the DCU. I think Ram V is a good choice to do it.
Oh yeah, total
there
weirdo.
are previews of this issue in this week's DC Comics. It looks kick ass.
Like this is probably what Ram V should be doing. And I understand why some people were not necessarily into what he was doing on Batman. This is where he should be. Will it sell? We shall see. I also like the New Gods, but I can't say it's because I've read so much good New Gods stuff. Like I like the idea of the New
it's
Gods.
almost like I like the new gods despite them.
I like the idea of the New Gods and the wacky shit that Jack Kirby did, I guess. But since then,
that's fair.
Woof. Now, you want to talk about a DC property with a long storied history of excellent stories. That's why I picked The Challengers of the Unknown #1 for next week from DC. It's written by Christopher Cantwell with art by Sean Isaacs. It is 32 pages for $3.99. Here's your solicit. Spinning out of absolute power and the DC All-In Special, the terror of the Darkseid Shockwave has cascaded across the DC universe, tearing open the very fabric of time and space itself. Not the multiverse, mind you. That's gone. So this is something.
Well, it's closed off. It's not gone. It's just closed off. But yeah.
Only one band of super scientists have the right stuff to challenge the fate of a universe. Enter the Challengers of the Unknown, alongside the Justice League, where the Challengers run day-to-day operations for the massive Watchtower base in orbit above the Earth. I love that. You got to have guys that run things.
So cool.
You can't just have like, oh yeah, it's our space station. It just does its own thing. No. Ace Morgan, June Robbins, Professor Haley, Red Ryan, and Rocky Davis must team with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and the rest of the Justice League to seal the rifts that threaten the galaxy. But a mysterious foe from the Challenger's past lurks in the shadows, and its connection to the God Shock will put the DCU on borrowed time. So, I'm a sucker for the whole C-list characters get a super important job or a new purpose. I love that. I love Christopher Cantwell's work over at Marvel. And he's kind of the perfect dude to come in and do something, again, with very blank slate characters, like we were talking about with Kraven earlier. Like,
I mean, look at what, like, he basically, he did a lot of great work with Hellcat in Iron Man.
Yes.
You know? It's like
gave her some real personality and some flaws and made her super interesting. Not to say that like she wasn't a great character before, but not really fleshed out like he did. He can do whatever he wants to flesh these guys out. I love the idea that like the Justice League book that features everybody, we can have guest stars from that entire group of heroes working with the Challengers because they do stuff on the ship. And it's sort of like what they're doing with the question, where the question is a security guard, and you can tell these stories with the question and whoever you want for that moment, right? It's great. It's perfect for these characters. And I've always had this kind of soft spot for DC's knockoff Fantastic Four, the Challengers to the Unknown.
Absolutely. I think it's very surprising to me that they didn't play this up a little bit more, but there's a little wink and a nod to old head DC fans like myself. The tagline of the Challengers of the Unknown has always been adventurers living on borrowed time, because they are all survivors of accidents or tragedies or whatever that should have killed them.
Oh, I didn't even know that, honestly.
Yeah. And so like that's their whole deal, is like, we're living on borrowed time. Let's make the most of it and explore this crazy world. And so, yeah, like living on borrowed time is like the slogan of the Challengers of the Unknown, and they just kind of casually tossed it in here.
I dig it.
I love it.
Put these comics on your pull file, people, if you want to read along with us, because we're going to review them on next week's new comic show. More on that in just a minute.
Excelsior!
And that's it for THN 763. I was just talking about it, but next week the new comic reviews return, and we're going to give you a sneak peek of our Patreon Extra, where we are playing Two-Headed Santa and reviewing almost every holiday special that we could find anyway, for a very special holiday ludicrous speed round. In the meantime, join us for the THN Gang Hang. We do it on Saturdays at 11 o'clock Central. Check out our Discord for details. Joe Patrick, what else can they do at our Discord?
You can compare and contrast heroes' emotional trauma to decide if Batman is more messed up than Moon Knight.
I don't know. Honestly, that is I think you could go either way.
or Daredevil or Deadpool.
Oh, yeah, but I don't even think they're as crazy as Batman and Moon Knight, honestly.
Yeah. You can track the slow descent of the Rotten Tomato meter for the new Kraven movie.
We are down to 15 as of this recording.
The Schadenfreude is just so delicious.
Not looking good for our friend Kraven.
I know. Or maybe you just want to answer the question of the week. This week's question, in honor of this episode's theme and everyone's favorite lion-vested and loinclothed hunter's debut on the big screen, what's your favorite example of a great story told with a quote-unquote lame character?
We could have said
it's okay if you love the character in
B
question,
or
but
C
let's
list. You chose lame.
let's not kid ourselves. Kraven is something of a joke in 1987.
Well, sure. This story made him great. Definitely.
He's not a joke now.
No.
Fire.
He may be a joke after people see this movie and this week.
Well,
again,
that's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
That's Joe Kelly's problem. Please keep your question of the week suggestions coming and sign up for our Discord with the link at twoheadednerd.com/Discord. If you don't dig on Discord, send an MP3 submission for the Comic Pushers, Ask a Nerd, or for any of our segments to twoheadednerd@gmail.com. Hey, if you wanna, we'll use that recording and put you on the show.
If you're new to the show and you can't sell any of your comics for reasons of reading them naked, I assure you, you should wear clothes when you read, and you're probably only doing it nude because you haven't heard enough of this show. We can tell you how to take care of your comics. We can help you with conditions.
Is that a tip that we gave out?
Sure, it's one we certainly can if you have this issue. The good news is you can hear the entire run of THN in our digital longbox archive at twoheadednerd.com. THN is a listener-supported podcast. There ain't no ads here, all right? And it wouldn't be possible without the generosity of fully clothed donors like our patron and Discord regular, Joe Reynolds. That man never gets naked. He's too respectful.
Look, Joe, you can get naked if you want.
If you like what you hear every week, it's easy to support the show. You can sign up to be a patron at patreon.com/Two-Headed Nerd. I did not mean to imply that Joe's like a never nude or something, you know.
Yeah, he's wearing cutoffs under.
He knows when to whip it out and when to put it away.
Okay, all right. Now it's getting actionable, I think. Before we go, our weekly shout out goes to Quimby's Bookstore in Chicago, one of the oldest independent book and comic shops in the U.S. Owner Eric Kersimer made the decision to sell after 28 years when his longtime store manager, Liz Mason, decided she was moving on.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to do it without her.
Word to you guys, in 30 years is a long time to do anything, let alone run an indie bookstore.
Yeah.
Hats off to you.
Until next time, true believers, remember to pre-order your comics or your retailer might not invite you down to their elephant sex dungeon. It's a two-headed nerd signing off. It is
what would be the worst option?
It's a very
Invited or
nice.
not?
It's a very nice apartment. It's just with an elephant sex dungeon.
I tell you what, I've been to the basement of a comic book store sex dungeon in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it was awesome.
It was what? Yeah? Did you have the sex down there?
No, but it was full of comics,
You
and that was
called
cool.
it a sex dungeon yourself, Joe. So,
Look, man, it was cavernous.
you just admitted it. The whole internet and everybody.
If the shoe fits.